My name is Charlotte Moraga, and I'm a Kathak dancer. And I've been a dancer for pretty much my whole life, but I discovered Kathak quite serendipitously when I was a student at San Francisco State University. At that time, in the very early 90s, State had this incredible sort of array of masters. I don't think probably anywhere else in the world was this sort of situation. We had Rosa Montoya, a flamenco dancer, Malanga Casalord, Congolese, Ragisa and Capoeira, and of course my guru, Pandit Chitreshdas, who's one of the world's most renowned Kathak masters. With my PE credits, I needed to take some dance and was very familiar with flamenco, wanted to take flamenco, but ended up with Kathak. And just from the minute I walked in, I was just blown away with what the art form was about, and also the master. It's just an unparalleled level of artistry and integrity. And what I discovered is that it's the depth of Kathak is something that requires a very unique way of study called the Guru Shishya Parampara, and it's a one-to-one relationship that is very sort of intense, and it's much more than dance. Like a parallel, I could say, it would be like when Frank Lloyd Wright would say to a disciple, you know, if you want to learn architecture, first you have to come and you have to live with me, and you have to learn to cook, and you have to go to the opera, and you have to garden, and you have to paint with me. And so this Kathak has so many nuances and aesthetics that it takes a real lot of study and sort of an in-depth sort of immersion to really master the form. Wow. It has a history that goes back thousands of years, and of course the Kathak that you see today is not anything close to what you would have seen even 50 years ago. So it continues to evolve, and fortunately the person who I learned from, Pandit Chitreshdas, is known for innovation within tradition. What interests me about performing Diaspora is that it's creating a platform where as a solo artist I have the opportunity to expand and to experiment and to present the art form in a way that provides context, and which is really important. There are a lot of festivals that showcase ethnic dance, and while they do a great service by exposing the art form, I do think that sometimes it can misrepresent the art form by putting them all on a similar sort of presentational package, and they're so uniquely different. So these festivals, 5-minute, 10-minute, are important, but performing Diaspora allows for more time for it to unfold, and a dialogue, and for building context and interaction also with other artists to learn more deeply about their forms. The three artists that are collaborating with me one of them is not traditional at all. Prasant is a saxophonist that's trained in Carnatic music. Salar Nadar, who plays tabla, and Ben Kunin plays sarod, and they're trained by very renowned masters, respectively Zakir Hussain and Ustad Ali Akbar Khan Sahab. And then there's myself, a Kathak artist who's trained by Pandit Chitreshdas. So we are all very deeply steeped in a classical tradition, but they're slightly different traditions. And so to bring them together is a very modern concept. And the whole concert is this unfolding. It's really a dialogue, this dialogue between the musicians and the dancer and the audience. So it's really full of what we call upaj, or improvisation. Upaj literally means from the heart, but what it is improvisation. So it's a very spontaneous sort of unfolding, and it builds. In order to distill that into just 30 minutes, I've had to really think about how to do it. It's going to have a lot of improvisation, a lot of virtuosic footwork and music, and it's going to have storytelling elements in it, and it's going to end with a big bang. I really hope to reach people on a very emotional level. Also, I hope that people sort of walk away learning something new about Kathak and Indian classical music, and understanding that perhaps it's very relevant, it's very meaningful, it's very sort of contemporary and in the moment. I think there's a lot of misconceptions about classical Indian dance that it's just sort of this, there's some, regurgitated sort of, you just perform the same thing over and over again. In Kathak, if you are performing really in a very traditional and deep sense, you're never performing the same thing twice, because there's a lot of improvisation. There's a different environment, there's a different audience, and the dancer has to respond to all those different elements. So hopefully the audience will walk away with a deeper understanding of what the art form is about. Well, obviously, I am not originally from India, and I feel that I have deeply imbibed the subtle nuances of Kathak, but I've had to work very, very hard. I've had to, besides dancing, I've had to travel India, learn the language, the food, the language, the history, the philosophy, the theory, the mathematics behind it. I've had to really sort of immerse myself in the world. When someone asks, let's say, Yo-Yo Ma about like how does he feel about people not from the culture practicing symphonic music, I don't think anybody would ever ask that. So, Kathak is a classical art form, and it's equal, if not, of course I'm biased, it's equal, if not greater than what you have to do to learn ballet, which is considered by many people not ethnic, but just this classical art form that the world, there's, they do national ballet companies in China, all over the world. And Kathak is just as demanding and requires as much intense study and understanding and knowledge. There's incredibly complex rhythm, there's very difficult technique, there's speed, there's power, there's virtuosity, there's a lot of depth and subtlety in the storytelling. Also, the Indian diaspora all over the world is growing up in places where they don't have the context of where Kathak originated from. So it doesn't matter what color your skin is. If you're not immersed in the culture of Kathak and study deeply, deeply with a proper guru, then you're not going to learn the art. The creative process in Kathak is closely intertwined with classical Indian music. We perform with live music because of that element of upaj, improvisation. It's working with the artists and just sharing ideas and sort of get inspired by each other. Also, there's a tremendous amount of philosophy and history because Kathak has roots that goes back thousands of years old. So there's many stories that sort of are archetypal in their meaning and their relevance that can be drawn upon for inspiration. A very old story that is very sort of traditional in Kathak is the Kaliya Daman, which is the story of, all the children know this, it's the story of how Krishna defeated this sort of serpent demon, Kaliya, and it's this very sort of superhero, and it's this demon, Kaliya, is polluting the river, and Krishna's ball, he's playing ball with his friends, and the ball goes in the water, and his friends get very scared, and they say, don't go in that water. And he says, oh, don't worry. He dives in and he gets his ball. And there's a fight between Kaliya and Krishna, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And eventually Kaliya wears out and Krishna comes up triumphant with the ball. And so this is just kind of a superhero story, but it has a lot of, it has relevance in modern day because polluting of the river, you can think of Kaliya as corporations that are polluting the river, and then Krishna as could be like you, that person that goes in there and tries to sort of see through that murkiness, like, well, what is it really that we need to do to clean this up, and fights and fights and fights, and every day takes their plastic mug instead of that paper cup to Starbucks or wherever they go, and that you could be Krishna doing that, because you are fighting to sort of to save that, to get rid of that polluting source. So it's very, very relevant, very, very, very modern themes that can be drawn from all these stories. And that's the challenge, and that's the inspiration also. What I love about Kathak is its depth. It's just a bottomless pit of inspiration and source.